Alright, I think this is working now. I'm not really sure yet. Hello. My name is Les. I used to be D5761, and I've decided to make a few recordings from the documents that I kind of stole from the Foundation on my way out. The document in question today is SCP-370. Warning: SCP-370 is an exceedingly contagious memetic infection. No cases of personnel being infected simply from reading this article have yet been recorded, so me reading it to you all should be fine. But just in case, make sure that anybody's listening to this is somewhere that you might be able to get to something that might prevent it. Because, I'm not actually supposed to be doing this, but I'm doing it anyway. SCP-370 itself is embedded in a small slab of solid lead and kept inside a solid steel box with no openings and 0.5 meter thick walls. Under no circumstances is SCP-370 to be removed from either this box or that lead slab. If it becomes partially or completely exposed, personnel are only allowed to be entered the containment cell if they're blindfolded and engaged with a metal detector. An electromagnet will then be used to transfer 370 to a small mold filled with molten lead so that it could harden and turn back into a lead slab and be put back into its steel containment box. SCP-370 is a key. The size, shape, and material and general appearance of 370 are relatively unknown because people aren't really able to see it without becoming infected. The only thing that's really known about them is that it causes a disease. And all records are going to be burned. The disease caused by 370 has 3 distinct sets of symptoms. Designations 370A, B, and C. The form of the disease appearing in any given subject appears to be determined permanently by the person's personality. Most frequently in subjects characterized by their peers as self-centered or cowardly, that would be SCP-370A. They show no symptoms upon initial infection. However, they will eventually end up taking their own lives as soon as they have an opportunity to do so, with minimal suffering. Like, they will jump from high ledges, shoot themselves in the head with a firearm, but they won't do anything that would cause a slow and painful death. The instant the subject's heart bursts or stops beating, the infected corpse will glow brilliantly and undergo an unknown transformation. They don't really know in much detail about this, or if anything caused by the light has any odd effects, but what is known is that no trace of any part of the subject's corpse has ever been recovered following this transformation. So I can only assume that it bursts them into legitimate light. Now, when it comes to SCP-370B, subjects are commonly described as most extroverted and altruistic. However, an identical manifestation of 370B appears in individuals with strong sadistic or violent tendencies. So if you got someone who's a bit of both of those, well, Initially, when they become infected, they are incredibly calm. You can literally get behind them with a shotgun, pull the trigger, and they won't jump or anything. This stage lasts for several seconds, and is followed by a sudden, unprovoked assault on anyone with the subject's reach, which continues into an indiscriminate killing spree. Persons killed by the infected subject will glow brightly and undergo an unknown transformation, presumably the same or similar to that of the previous victims of 370A. Initially, the infected subject is no more dangerous than an ordinary violent human. However, after killing 2 to 3 people, the subject's body will begin to radiate yellow light. This light appears to inhibit the sympathetic nervous response of the subject's victims, making it difficult for people to fight back against them. Basically, it makes them submissive. After approximately 5 to 6 successful kills, the light triples and the direct skin-to-skin contact with the subject becomes deadly. They basically get the ability of Rogue from X-Men without any of the benefits. It's just you touch them, you're going to die. At this point, any eye contact with the victim becomes a contagious factor. After killing 12 people, subjects who are considered violent prior to the infection may require as many as 50 kills to reach this stage. It all depends on the personality and previous reasons of incarceration if it's a D class. The subject will abruptly cease all hostilities and enter the final phase of 370B infection. They will raise its arms skyward and shout in a amplified voice, "Blank, take me home." It's redacted, so I say blank. This sound seems to pass through soundproof walls, industrial-strength earmuffs, only slight muffling. It can be heard by just about everyone in earshot, unless they're deaf. After this cry, a shaft of radiation in the visible spectrum forms around the subject, who will then levitate several feet above the ground, blank, and vanishing. As of 37A, no trace of the vanished subject have ever been found. Now C manifests itself in people of high IQ and analytic or contemplative personality type, and is the most dangerous of these three. Unfortunately, the majority of the Foundation research staff responsible for this are pretty susceptible to 370C, based on where they work, basically. Upon initial infection, subjects will close their eyes and remain voluntarily still and silent for an average of 30 seconds. If questioned on this, subjects will claim to have been praying, which sounds weird considering it's the Foundation. Any infected subjects detected at this stage must be terminated immediately and by any means necessary. After infection, they'll behave as normal other than closing their eyes and praying, but with significant increase in sense of well-being. This system persists even when the subject is forced into unpleasant conditions. Infected subjects seem to possess 370 contagious knowledge about the appearance and exact nature of 370, whether or not they have been exposed to such info. Subjects will actively and covertly attempt to spread the infection, specifically targeting victims likely to manifest 370A or 370C. These efforts are likely to include, but not limited to, mentioning 370 contagious information in casual conversation, attempting to have SCP-370 removed from containment for research or attempted disposal, adding 370 vectors to Foundation research notes. What? Oh, nothing. For research notes or other documents, including this page, attempting to broadcast infection material on a large scale. I might be causing that last part, except that I do not have a high AQ. I am just reading this because I have this one. After about 50 successful infections, 370C enters its final phase. During this phase, the air around the subject radiates a small amount of light in the visible spectrum, creating a faint yellow glow around the subject. That makes me think of Super Saiyan. This glow includes a parasympathetic calming response in viewers and has a... It's blank. It's redacted percentage. I'm just going to say 75% chance of causing infection for every minute of visual contact. Within about a day of this radiation appearing, regardless of any further successful infections, a flaming blank burn marks on any surfaces it touches or passes through and leaves no trace of the infected subject. This event leaves behind an invisible patch of contagious space, which infects anyone who passes through it. Patches seem to fade in approximately 7 days, but as a precaution, they should be avoided for a full 2 weeks. The note on this is it has become apparent that SCP-370C infection is being used by some personnel as an excuse to torment and murder fellow Foundation staff. The personnel responsible have been demoted to D class. However, considering the enormous threat posed by 370C, the containment protocol above will not be revised. Addendum 370A. The circumstances of 370's original retrieval are unknown. It was found in the ruins of Site Blank, a remote Foundation base in eastern Blank. These containment protocols in their original form and the described steel box were found in a sealed vault along with a single corpse, identified as Dr. Blank, a known Satanist, and the doctor's personnel log, which was found to be 370 contagious. The rest of the site was abandoned and no other dead bodies were found. although signs of a struggle were ubiquitous. Don't know what that means. I still don't know what that means, and I don't feel like getting out the phone to look that up. The rest of the site's stored data on 370 has been erased or destroyed, although a few useful notes on other SCPs were recovered, particularly SCP blank. Several infection events occurred during recovery efforts. Bleh. Bleh. Maybe I am being affected by it, just not the way it wants to, which is making me mess up words. Thinking I could just be messing up my words because my accent and my tongue is trying to fight against me while talking. These were contained with extreme prejudice, and the infection was believed extinct. 370 was briefly designated as safe. However, in light of recent Keter designation has been restored, anti-memetic security has been tightened throughout all Foundation sites. Addendum 370B. Dr. Blank's log has been successfully purged of memetic infections and is cleared for viewing by authorized personnel. The same precautions described for read and startle also apply to this log. Now, I would love to read the log, but I didn't steal the file that had the log. So I apologize that I don't have that to share with you all. Whoever decides to watch this when I leave it in a random box. Pandora, can you help me find this button? I can't find the button. Where's the button?